Chapter 11. A Connection Unseen. The city buzzed beneath the darkening sky, but inside his car, Jackson Walker was still. Parked in the quiet underground lot beneath his high-rise condo, he hadn't moved in 20 minutes. The glow of the dashboard cast shadows on his face as the soft hum of the radio filled the silence. Chris Connor's voice, always calm and smooth, came through clearly. "Tonight's letter," he said, "is from the girl without a name. And I don't know who she is, but she speaks like she's lived 1,000 lives." There was a pause. The sound of a letter unfolding. "Dear stranger, I didn't think you'd reply. And yet, here we are." Jackson leaned his head back against the seat, one hand resting on the steering wheel, the other loosely curled near the volume dial. "It's strange, isn't it? I don't know your name, but I feel like I know your heart." A smile touched his lips. How could a stranger's words feel so familiar? "I think we all wear masks. For the world, for the people we love, even for ourselves. But when I write to you, stranger, I don't need one." He exhaled slowly. The words so raw, so gentle felt like they were meant for him. And wasn't that ridiculous? He didn't even know who she was. No name, no face, just words. And yet, it felt honest, unfiltered, something he hadn't tasted in a long time. Chris continued reading, his voice steady. "So here's another truth. I'm scared. Not of the world, but of being seen. Of being truly known. And yet, I'm still writing to you." Jackson closed his eyes with a peaceful smile lingering in his lips. He had thousands of fans. People who screamed his name, followed his every move. But none of them knew him. Not really. And here was a girl somewhere out there telling her truth to a stranger. When Chris finished reading, he spoke softly. "To the girl without a name, thank you. Keep writing. Someone's listening." The outro music began to fade in. But Jackson didn't move. For the first time in a long while, he felt something shift. A pull. A flicker of connection. And he didn't even know her name. He whispered to no one, "I hope she writes again." Then he turned off the car, but not the feeling. Chapter 12. The Flicker of Truth. Jackson couldn't shake the feeling. He sat still in his car, staring at the steering wheel, the weight of the letter from the girl without a name heavy in his chest. The radio was now silent, but his mind replayed the words over and over again. He hadn't expected her letter to affect him so deeply. It wasn't the kind of thing he usually allowed to get under his skin, not when he was constantly surrounded by people, by the media, by fans, by friends. He was used to being the one on the pedestal, always in the spotlight, always the one people thought they knew. But here she was, a stranger who had never even seen his face, speaking words that felt like they were meant just for him. Something about her vulnerability resonated with him. It was rare, especially for someone like him, to find honesty in a world filled with expectations, masks, and carefully curated images. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel it. The raw truth in her words. Meanwhile, in her own quiet corner of the world, Hannah Dawson sat at her desk, the soft hum of her computer in the background as she stared at the blinking cursor on the screen. She had written another letter, just like the last one, but this time there was something different in the air. She had almost expected it, the thrill, the excitement, the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, someone was out there listening. It was funny how little she knew about him, about who he was. But that wasn't the point, was it? The point was that she had shared herself in a way that felt right. She had shared her truth, no names, no expectations, no judgment. Still, she found herself waiting for that next moment. The feeling of connection she had gotten when she heard his voice on the radio. But she didn't know when that would come. She didn't know if it would ever come again. So, she kept writing. Chapter 13. Echoes in the Silence. Hannah sighed and leaned back in her chair, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her window was open just a crack, letting in the cool breath of night. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked once, and then everything went still again. Her fingers hovered over the letter. She had already written her letter, poured her thoughts into it like she had done before, but something about this one made her hesitate. Was it too much? Too revealing? She folded it neatly, slipped it into an envelope, and scribbled the familiar words on the front, to voices between the lines. There was no name. There never was. The next morning, she took a different route. Not her usual walk down Maple Lane. Today, she turned left at the corner bakery and headed for the hill near the old post office. There, nestled beside a row of flower pots and a rusting bench, was the bright red mailbox belonging to the radio station. Her fingers lingered on the envelope a moment too long. Then she let it go. It landed inside with a soft thunk. Hannah closed her eyes briefly and smiled to herself. Not everything needed to be seen to be felt. That evening, she sat curled on the living room sofa, her parents watching TV just a few feet away. Her fingers tapped lightly on her phone, not scrolling, not texting. Just waiting. And then it came. Chris Connor's voice broke through the static of the radio, warm and familiar, like a friend returning home. Welcome back to Voices Between the Lines. Tonight, we received another letter, and this one, well, it's from someone we've come to know only through her words. Our girl without a name. Hannah's heart thudded once, then twice. She sank a little deeper into the couch. Chris began to read. I used to think silence meant no one cared. But now, I think silence can mean someone is listening so intently, they don't want to miss a single word. Her father changed the TV channel absent-mindedly. Her mother got up to pour tea. But Hannah, she was frozen in place, caught between the radio waves and the words now echoing into the room. It scares me how much I look forward to this. A response from someone I've never seen. And yet, when I hear your words read aloud, it feels like the world stops pretending. Like for a second, we're both just real. Chris paused, just for a beat. Then, something happened. Something new. Chris cleared his throat gently. And tonight, we also have a reply. Hannah's breath caught. To the girl without a name. You're not alone. Sometimes, we all wear masks. But in truth, we're all just waiting for someone to see us. I'm listening. And I hope, wherever you are, you can find the courage to be seen. From someone out there. Her eyes widened, lips parting. Her chest fluttered in that now familiar way, but stronger this time. This wasn't just her words drifting into the void. Someone had written back. Someone was listening. A soft laugh escaped her lips, breathless and full of disbelief. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't writing into silence. She was part of a conversation. Chapter 14, Beneath the Same Sky. Jackson stood by the tall window of his penthouse apartment, the city lights casting scattered reflections against the glass. In one hand, he held a mug of coffee gone cold. In the other nothing, just clenched fingers and a racing heart. He had heard it too. Every word Chris read, every heartbeat folded into that reply. His reply. It had taken him hours to write that short response, far longer than he'd ever spent on any script or interview prep. And still, his fingers had trembled as he handed the sealed envelope to Chris earlier that afternoon. He didn't know what he expected. Maybe he thought it would feel like tossing a note into the ocean, freeing but ultimately pointless. But it hadn't felt pointless. Because somewhere out there, she was listening. He didn't know her name. Had never seen her face. But her words had carved out a space in his world, soft and bright and startlingly real. Jackson took a slow sip, eyes still fixed on the skyline. Where are you right now? He murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Did you hear it? Did you know it was me? Of course she didn't. And she wouldn't. That was the whole point. Still, the ache in his chest wasn't so easily explained away. Meanwhile, across the city, Hannah sat on her bed, legs folded beneath her, eyes wide and unblinking. The reply had replayed in her head a dozen times already. From someone out there. She repeated it under her breath, savoring the words like a secret she wasn't quite ready to share. She hadn't written her next letter yet. But her fingers itched to begin. It wasn't just a vent anymore. It wasn't just loneliness or curiosity. It was a connection. A quiet thread stretching between two strangers beneath the same sky. And somewhere out there, one of them had finally answered back. Chapter 15, The Words Between. The next morning dawned soft and silver, clouds dragging their feet across the sky like they, too, hadn't slept. Hannah sat by her window, wrapped in an old sweater, knees pulled to her chest. She hadn't written anything all night. The blank page in her notebook stared back at her, not empty, just waiting. For once, she didn't know what to say. How do you respond to someone who saw you so clearly without even knowing your name? She finally picked up her pen. Dear someone out there. You said you're listening. That you hope I can find the courage to be seen. What if I'm not ready for that yet? Is it enough that I'm writing? That I'm trying? She paused, tapped her pen against the paper. Some nights I feel braver than others. Some nights I think I could say everything, all at once. But daylight has a way of making me retreat. Like it's safer in the dark. She glanced toward the little red mailbox in the distance. It was silly, how much she trusted it now. How much she trusted him, whoever he was. Still, here I am again. Writing, hoping, waiting. Is that courage? She didn't sign it. She never did. Instead, she folded the letter slowly, carefully, and slipped it into the same envelope she always used. Her hand hovered over it for a moment. Then she smiled. One more letter, one more truth. And with that, she headed out into the soft morning haze. Meanwhile, across the city, Jackson stared at the folded paper in his pocket, her last letter, printed out by Chris and handed to him in quiet understanding. He read it again, slowly. I don't know your name, but I feel like I know your heart. The words stayed with him long after the page was folded again and tucked away. He opened a blank page on his phone and typed just 3 words. She wrote again. Chapter 16, Between Letters and Life. Don't forget the soy sauce. Her mom called from the kitchen. I'm not even past the product aisle, Mom, Hannah muttered into her phone, wedging it between her shoulder and ear while juggling a basket full of bell peppers, instant noodles, and a very questionable avocado. Sunday grocery runs were a Dawson family tradition except when her mom conveniently declared a sudden backache, and sent her daughter ran off alone. Typical. Also, get some of those sesame biscuits your dad likes. And oh, Liam said he needs toothpaste. What am I, the town grocery shop? Hannah grumbled, though a smile tugged at her lips. Speak of the devil. Just as she turned into the personal care aisle, there he was, her not-so-angel brother, Liam, arms crossed, leaning against the shelf like he owned the place. Tall, smug, and wearing that grin that always meant trouble. Forgot your list again, didn't you? He asked, tossing a pack of mint toothpaste into her basket. I'm doing 3 people's shopping. And 1 overgrown child's, apparently. Ouch, he feigned offense. And here I was, going to offer you a ride home. With or without detours for bubble tea. Bubble tea's non-negotiable. She rolled her eyes, but didn't protest. Back at home, after dinner and the usual fuss over who didn't do the dishes, it was Hannah, and everyone knew it. She finally settled into her room. The radio played low in the background. No letters tonight, no Chris, just the gentle hum of a love song from the 80s. Still, she found herself staring at her desk, at the stack of papers she'd been working on. Her job as a junior editor at Script and Spool was hardly glamorous, cutting scripts for independent films, proofing subtitles, sometimes ghostwriting blurbs for B-grade romances. But tonight, she felt lighter. Maybe it was the letter. Maybe it was the reply. Maybe it was just the weird sugar high from the caramel bubble tea Liam forced her to drink. She leaned forward, grabbed a pen, and wrote on a fresh sheet. Dear someone out there, is it weird that I smiled when I heard your words? Not the polite smile I wear for work or awkward banquet conversations. A real one. One that felt like mine. Thank you for writing back. For reminding me that being seen doesn't have to be scary. I don't know who you are. But maybe, someday, I'd like to. Until then, I'll keep writing. Still nameless but less afraid. She folded the letter carefully. A part of her hoped Chris would read it on air. Another part wondered if he was still listening. Outside, the wind picked up. Inside, her heart felt strangely calm. She wasn't alone. Not anymore. Chapter 17, Static and Stirring. On the other side of the city. The concert had gone on for 3 hours. The lights, the crowd, the endless screaming, it all felt like a dream now, distant and echoing. Jackson Walker collapsed onto the backstage sofa, one arm flung across his eyes as he let the exhaustion sink in. His shirt clung to his back, and his throat was dry from singing, but the adrenaline still pulsed faintly under his skin. You good? His assistant poked his head in, concern soft in his voice. Yeah, he mumbled. Just give me a sec. The door shut quietly. He let his head fall back, eyes on the peeling ceiling tiles. His fingers flexed instinctively, still remembering the weight of the mic, the heat of the lights. He'd sung his heart out, smiled for the cameras, winked at the crowd, played the perfect version of himself. The version the world wanted. And now, silence. Finally. When he finally pulled his arm away, the room was dim, the only light spilling in from the hallway. He sat up slowly, fingers reaching for the water bottle on the table, then hesitated. Instead, he picked up his phone. Not to scroll through the performance hashtags. Not to check fan reactions. No, he opened the radio app. Voices between the lines. He scrolled back to tonight's episode. Tapped play. Chris Connor's voice crackled to life, smooth and familiar. Dear someone out there, is it weird that I smiled when I heard your words? Not the polite smile I wear for work or awkward banquet conversations. A real one. One that felt like mine. Jackson exhaled, almost smiling. There she was again, that girl. The one who never gave a name. The one who poured her heart out in quiet letters, unpolished and real. She didn't know what her words did to him. She didn't know that in a world full of fake smiles and heavy expectations, her honesty was the only thing that still felt untouched. Thank you for writing back. For reminding me that being seen doesn't have to be scary. I don't know who you are. But maybe, someday, I'd like to. Chris paused again. A beat. Then two. Until then, I'll keep writing. Still nameless but less afraid. Looks like our girl's not afraid anymore. He listened to the letter twice. Then 3 times. Each word sat with him like an old friend. He pulled out the notebook he kept hidden in his backpack, the one not even his manager knew about, and turned to a blank page. He began to write. To the girl who makes silence feel less lonely. You once said silence could mean someone is listening. I want you to know I am. Even when you don't speak. Especially then. There's something brave in you. Something I miss in most people. You write like you're hoping the words will hold your heart together, and somehow, they do. For both of us. He paused. Then, softly, under his breath. For me, too. He didn't sign it. Somehow, it felt more honest that way. The letter stayed in his notebook. For now. Because for a man who spent his life in front of the world, this was the one thing he wanted to keep real and just his. Chapter 18. The Man Behind the Mask. Morning came too fast. Jackson stepped into the rehearsal hall, dark sunglasses hiding tired eyes. The room buzzed with energy, stylists rushing, background dancers stretching, production crew fiddling with lights and equipment. Another day. Another shoot. You look like you got run over by your own concert, his friend and choreographer, Theo, smirked, tossing him a protein bar. Thanks for the pep talk, Jackson muttered, peeling the wrapper slowly. Rough night. Jackson gave a noncommittal shrug. He wasn't about to explain the radio app he fell asleep listening to. Or the letter he read 3 times before closing his notebook and shoving it deep into his backpack like it might burn him. Theo tapped him on the shoulder. Come on, heartthrob. 1 dance sequence, and then you can collapse in your room. Jackson sighed, letting muscle memory carry him through the motions. Camera-ready smiles. Perfect posture. Every step synced to the beat. But his mind drifted. Between takes, he scrolled through his messages. His mother had texted the night before. Mom, saw your performance trending again. Proud of you, baby. You eating enough? Call me later. He hadn't replied yet. He didn't want to hear the same gentle concern behind her every question. The same pause before she asked, are you happy? Because he didn't know how to answer. Fame was loud, constant. It swallowed everything, including himself. After rehearsal, he sat in his trailer, towel draped around his neck. Chris's voice played faintly through his phone again, reading Hannah's letter. Still nameless but less afraid. He smiled slightly. She didn't know who he was. That he was Jackson Walker, the face on billboards and the smile behind sold-out tickets. But maybe that was the point. She saw the real him. Not the idol. Just someone who listened. A knock at the room door broke the moment. Hey, man. Lunch, Theo called. Be there in 5. He reached for his notebook again. To the girl who calls herself, still nameless. I wonder if you'd recognize me if we met. Not the version of me the world sees, but this one. The one who waits for your letters like they're the only thing real in his day. He paused, tapping the pen against his lip. You make me want to write back. Not just on paper, but in life. Do you believe in coincidences? Because I don't. Not anymore. Not since your words started making more sense than anything else around me. He drew a small line in the corner of the page. Not a signature, just a marker for himself. Then, gently, he closed the notebook. He wasn't ready to send it yet. Not until he figured out if this feeling, this pull, was more than just fiction created between two strangers and some radio waves. But he'd keep writing. He always did. Chapter 19, The Noise and the Quiet. Later that night, Jackson slipped into the backseat of a black SUV, cap low over his eyes, hoodie zipped up. Fans still lingered outside the studio gates, their voices muffled through tinted glass. Home? His driver asked. Jackson hesitated. Take the long way. The car pulled into motion, weaving through the quieter streets of the city. His phone buzzed with notifications. Messages from sponsors, his manager, group chats from the team. A short video clip of him on stage had gone viral again. He didn't open it. Instead, he opened the recording app. He sat in silence for a few seconds, then pressed record. To the girl I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if you write because you're lonely, or because you're brave. Maybe both. I listen because I need to feel like something real still exists in my life. Your words remind me I'm still human. He paused. Deleted it. Too personal. Too much. But wasn't that the point? His hand found the notebook again. Always nearby now. He flipped to the latest page and added another line. You asked if being seen is scary. It is. But being unseen, that's even worse. He stared at the words for a long time, then glanced out the window. A small bookstore passed by, its window lit with fairy lights and a handwritten Poetry Night Thursdays sign. He smiled faintly. It's already the second day, still he has not decided what to reply to her. The notebook was already filled with countless replies, but still he hadn't sent a single one. By the time he reached home, the penthouse hidden high above the city, the world outside felt a million miles away. He tossed his keys on the counter, kicked off his shoes, and sank into the couch. He didn't turn on the lights. Just the radio. And like fate had cued it just for him, Chris's voice floated through the room again. Tonight's letter is from Still Nameless. She writes. Is it silly to miss someone you've never met? Because I do. I miss the way it feels when someone reads my words and stays. And I hope maybe you're still listening. Jackson shut his eyes and curled up on the sofa, small and quiet, like a child seeking comfort. He was listening. He always was. Chapter 20, Ink, Interrupted. The kettle whistled just as Hannah smudged ink across her notebook. Ah, not again. She wiped her hand on the sleeve of her hoodie, grimacing at the black streak now adorning the margin of her new letter draft. Her room looked like the inside of a paper storm, crumpled pages, highlighters, an empty instant noodle bowl, and her half-finished letter sitting in the middle like a stubborn guest. She padded barefoot to the kitchen, poured herself some tea, and leaned against the counter, her mind still drifting. She hadn't heard his letter on the radio this time. Maybe he was busy. Maybe he didn't get her last letter. Or maybe he was just too tired to reply back. That was okay. She hadn't written for attention anyway. Just to be heard. By him. Whoever he was. Her, someone out there. She returned to her room, cradling her tea, and sat down again, eyeing the mess of ink and paper. A clean page waiting her. She stared at it, then began. Dear you, I missed hearing your words tonight. Isn't that funny? I don't know your name, your face, or your voice, and yet, I missed you. It's strange, how easy it is to feel close to someone through silence. Through paper. Through space. I think I'm afraid that if we met, it would break the magic. Or maybe, it would be real. And that scares me more. Either way, I'll keep writing. Because in this very noisy world, you're the one thing that makes the silence feel like home. She stopped, heart thudding a little louder than before. She folded the letter, placed it in the envelope, and set it on her desk. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos.